Hi, welcome to my website. My name is Victoria. I am very grateful that you're here. And I am essentially your catalyst for change and guiding you to your personal mastery. I am a certified PSYCH-K facilitator, among other things, a human design enthusiast. And essentially, I guide you through a very powerful transformation process using Psyche to really up level your life, to transform limiting beliefs, to shift limiting perceptions, to kind of ease any tensions or stress and dissolve those, and then to easily overcome any obstacles that you might be dealing with at this time. I typically help in the energetic and subconscious kind of realms. I work with badass women who are super successful in pretty much every area of their life, but they are still feeling unfulfilled and unsatisfied. And kind of ask, like, is this it? Is there anything more? Right? They are really ambitious, they are resilient. And I absolutely love my clientele and who I work with. So if you are one of these women, thank you for coming, and I can't wait to meet you. I want to introduce myself, obviously, and I want to tell you a little bit about how I discovered PSYCH-K and the amazing results that I've experienced in my own life. I want to talk about what PSYCH-K is and maybe what a typical session will look like and kind of the process behind it. And then I want to tell you a little bit about the typical issues that my clients come to me with. And lastly, I'm going to share a recent client story, a facilitated session that I did about a mom of three who just got back with her whole family from 8 months of traveling, and she was having all of these growing anxieties because she doesn't feel organized and she feels like they were always running late and she's going to miss their flights, and there was just kind of this really big overwhelm, and she knows that she has a trip coming up, and so we were able to actually transform that anxiety into an excitement for her next trip. So let's get into it. So how I discovered PSYCH-K was I was in years of therapy and working on a particular relationship in my life. And this relationship was something that, I didn't want to have it be so stressful. And I got to the point where I couldn't even look this person in the eye. If I even heard their name, I was like, ugh. And it just brought so much stress to my system. And that's not the way that I want to live. I want to value my relationships. I want to respect people. I want to be able to get along with people. So I was in 3 years of therapy, and nothing really worked. It gave me a lot of awareness into maybe why I was the way I was or why she was the way she was, understanding of, how I show up and how she shows up, but it didn't actually help me be able to feel better, to be able to relate better, to be able to forgive and to craft a new relationship, which is what I desired, right? I couldn't find what it was that I needed to transform this relationship. And I knew she wasn't going to change. I knew I needed to change, because I needed to feel better. And I was listening to a podcast and I came across, it was a human design podcast actually. And I came across a wonderful, magical human named Ellie Richter. And I immediately signed up for 4 sessions. We did our first session around this relationship, and she guided me through what's called it's a TPS. It's a transform the perception of stress. And I was able to transform that perception of stress around this relationship and then give myself some empowering beliefs that helped me navigate it. And the next day, this person came over and I felt peace. And when I tell you, the relief that I felt was so profound and was something that I had been seeking and searching for for 3 years. And to all of a sudden, after one session, feel that peace. I literally texted Ellie and I was like, if we don't have another single session, like I bought 4, it was like, hundreds of dollars. I said that single session was worth all of the money that I've already paid you. Like I would be happy if I didn't have one more session, just because that anxiety, that distress in my life was so big and so distracting for so long. And to have that relief was honestly priceless. And that started my journey with PSYCH-K. After working with her for a while, I realized I was in a very toxic job with a grandiose narcissist boss. I had a lot of patterning around jobs and kind of getting into these situations. We transformed that. I was able to walk away from that job without anything else lined up, which was normally very scary for me. But I trusted. I just trusted the universe to catch me, and it did. And I attracted a job that I was able to receive 50% more in my paychecks than I was at my last job. I had been trying so hard to up level my finances, and I was like at that barrier. I like couldn't get past it, right? And I kept kind of bumping up. I was almost there. It was like $5,000 away every time. It was like, ugh. And with PSYCH-K, I was able to literally break through the barrier. The recruiter called me and gave me the offer. I would have asked for like $20,000 less. Like I would have, because I was like, how do I deserve this much money? Right? Like I rewired it. He gave me more than what I even expected. It exceeded my expectations. This is the power of PSYCH-K. This is the power of what you can do with your subconscious programs and your limiting beliefs and your shitty perceptions. So I wanted to share my story because I think it's important that, you know, you can only help people as much as you've been able to look into yourself and heal yourself. And that is a continuous process with me. I am continually challenging what I believe and shifting my perspectives and using PSYCH-K every day, like hundreds of times a week, to bring more peace and joy and excitement to my life. And so I want the same for you. After all of my balances, I have full trust in myself and in my intuition. I've found my magic and I'm able to amplify those gifts in the world. I am honoring my unique energy and I am leaning into self-care like no one's business, and I don't feel bad about it. I really have almost eliminated all stress out of my life, and I have rewrote unhelpful programs, and I have broke several painful patterns that I had been kind of just like living in for so long, right? So PSYCH-K is something that I had never heard of before this podcast. And in simple terms, it's often described as a spiritual process with psychological benefits, which it is. I very much feel that way. It's an easy and powerful way to connect with our subconscious and superconscious minds and to craft language that it understands and install new beliefs. So maybe we never had this belief before. It's not necessarily that we have a limiting belief around it. We just never had the belief to begin with. So it's a way that we can easily access the back door of the subconscious, install new beliefs, reprogram the beliefs that don't serve us anymore. We can test what our subconscious wants. So a lot of times there's a cognitive dissonance between what our subconscious believes and what we consciously desire or we consciously know. That's where that distress really comes from. It's like, you know better. Why didn't you do better? It's that cognitive dissonance. Your subconscious is not on board. So it's an easy way for us to test what our subconscious actually believes and then integrate new perceptions and beliefs and test that those actually were integrated. It's a beautiful, beautiful practice. And I am so, so, so grateful to facilitate these types of sessions with my clients. It is an interactive, experiential process that you can't even put words around. Like talking about the results that you've achieved and the life that you've been able to build is one thing, but like to experience these internal shifts is the most profound thing I've ever experienced. There is research on the PSYCH-K website if you want to dig into that. Some people like that kind of thing. And I'm just going to point out one thing. They did a brain scan of people before the PSYCH-K balance and then after the PSYCH-K balance. And they looked at the brain activity. And essentially what happened was when people were having negative thoughts, like I'm not going to be successful, their amygdala shut down and their bodies went into fight, flight, freeze, right? So what we know is that when we believe something, when something is true and congruent, our physical bodies are stronger. And when something is not true, we don't believe it, it is incongruent or not, not helpful, or it's like a no, right? Our bodies become weaker. And there's lots of studies on this, but our subconscious rules our nervous systems. And we may not even be aware of the things that we believe. I always joke, like, you wouldn't believe what you believe because consciously you wouldn't think that your subconscious wasn't on board. But basically in this study, they showed that the whole brain state, which is what the balance does in PSYCH-K, we put you into a whole brain balance that allows the right and left hemisphere to communicate and come online and put more brain flow and blood into the system. It increases your brain functioning and increases your mood. You have more positive moods and you're able to have more cognitive openness. And a lot of times with my clients, when we're removing that stress out of their system through one of these balances, they get insights that they didn't even know were possible. They couldn't see a way out of their situation. They couldn't see another alternative. They're able to see from various different perspectives. They get different ideas that they never thought that they would have thought of. And so it's really, really amazing when you can balance your nervous system, the insights that you're able to pull out of your own circumstance. And the beauty about PSYCH-K is that we're just facilitators. I'm not a coach. I'm not telling you what I think. I'm not repeating back to you what I understand. I am using your experience, your words, your phrases, because that's the way your subconscious communicates. And you are doing the transformations. You are doing all of the work. I am simply facilitating it. So in a session, we normally kind of start where you're at. I like to meet people where they're at. And I always trust that whatever comes up in the moment there's a reason for it. Oftentimes I would go into my sessions, and I would think about it a couple days before and I would say, oh, I want to work on this thing. And inevitably something would fucking come up and I would be so distracted by that thing that I would have to talk about it. But remarkably, it was exactly what I needed in the moment. And so I always remind my clients, like, trust whatever's coming up and don't try to have an agenda if you can help it, right? We'll start with where you're at. We'll have a little chat. What is your situation? What is your circumstance? What are you struggling with? What are your desires? And we will create a strategy of how to address it. I always set the intention that these sessions are as simple, as powerful, as effective as possible. We use muscle testing in PSYCH-K. And so essentially it's just our means of consciously communicating with those subconscious and superconscious brains via the physical body. So in person, if you're familiar with muscle testing, you would put like your arm out to the side and I would push down gently on your arm. And if it's strong, that means it's a yes response or we believe it. If it's a weak response, that means it's a no or we don't believe it. And this is how we can communicate with our subconscious minds. But because we're virtual and my clients are all over the world, we do this simple link up between our highest selves, always with the highest of intentions of the highest and best for you. And essentially, it's just a connection between us so that I can facilitate on your behalf and I can do the muscle testing on your behalf, but you get to do all of the transformations. So some of my clients expressed that after a session, that they felt really safe and held in a space and were really listened to for the first time. They felt very validated. They receive powerful insights once they can kind of remove the stress out of their system. They become clear on what to do next. They're the ones that gain clarity, right? They weren't given ideas. They weren't given clarity. They received it from the balance that they went through. They've gained confidence and a sense of calm and motivation. They reported feeling more happy and content. And they see things from a different perspective that wasn't available to them before. They feel lighter in their body with less physical tension. And then they've turned anxiety into excitement, right? Not anxiety like, oh, I'm excited, anxiety, like anxiety to I'm thrilled to be able to do this thing, right? So these are just some of the things. Some of the common issues that my clients tend to bring to the table are a feeling of unfulfilled, right? They've achieved all these things. They have a great, maybe business, they're business owners. They have, money isn't a question for them. It's like, but I'm still feeling unfulfilled. they may not realize it, but they might be high functioning codependents. Um, this happened to me where I was like, I'm not codependent. Everybody like depends on me. I don't depend on anybody. I'm not codependent. Turns out I was a high functioning codependent and I'm recovering. I'm a recovering high functioning codependent. So I assist my clients in navigating those patterns and uh, helping them manage those high levels of responsibility. For me, I did not have the belief that I um, felt safe to receive help. And that was huge for me. Feeling okay and safe to receive help has been one of the best transitions that I've made on my subconscious because now I know I don't have to be totally responsible. And the thing about that is that, my husband was very willing to help me. It was just I couldn't receive it. And so there was a friction there. I wanted it and I kept asking for it, but my subconscious system kept pushing it away. And so they suffer from fear of vulnerability or playing too small because, what if I'm too much for people, right? A lot of the women that I work with are so powerful and they are fucking badasses. And yet, in certain situations, they don't feel like they can be their full authentic self. They may be navigating transitions, right? So kids growing up, going out of the house, divorces, marriages, big, transitions in career, or they want to invest and they're not really sure if they can trust themselves, right? Um, Maybe they're navigating relationship issues or a loss of passion and creativity, a sense that maybe they're not connected to that part of them. They want to overcome limiting beliefs. Maybe they're aware of these things, right? They are dealing with emotional overwhelm, even physical overwhelms. Most of their bodies are shutting down, right? They're forcing them to rest. And so it's learning how our nervous system works, learning how to balance that, learning how to give ourselves a powerful foundation so that we're not getting diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis or staph infections, or I could go down the whole list of people's ailments and diseases that get better when they take care of themselves and that they do the subconscious work. So, I told you I wanted to tell you a quick story about the mom who was experiencing anxiety. Uh, as I mentioned, she was a mom of three and all kids under 9. They travel a lot. And she's like, my husband is one of those people who like has to get, his coffee before the flight. And I feel like we're always late and I don't feel organized like leading up to the travel. And it's really causing me a lot of distress. And so what we did was we transformed that stress. And what she discovered was that the reality is that her husband does help her. She's not having to do everything on her own. However, she didn't believe or see that he was able to help her. And so we transitioned all of that. And she was able to come to this idea that, oh, actually, I have a 9-year-old. Like I could teach them how to do a lot of these things, right? So as moms, we're so used to doing things for our kids and we forget that they grow and they gain capabilities. And so she was able, because of all of this work that she did on her subconscious, she was like, oh, she had a plan that would allow her to not only teach them how to take care of themselves, but would allow her the space to feel supported and helped. She wasn't alone in trying to do all the doing for the family. And so I just love that example. So if any of this resonates with you, if you're dealing with anything that is stressful, or even if you're wanting to be this highest version of yourself and you're feeling some sort of resistance to that, um, let's work together because this is a really powerful tool that can be used to completely change your life. My life is nothing like it was several years ago. So I look forward to meeting you. Let me know if you have any questions. I invite you to explore on my website. Email me or message me if you have questions. You can book a free discovery call. We can kind of talk through maybe what you're experiencing and how we could kind of guide you forward. So I hope to see you soon, and you deserve to be the powerful badass that you were designed to be.